Hello, and thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Allison, for a beautiful introduction, and thank you to Anna Leahy and to everyone here at Chapman. It's been a wonderful day. I've really enjoyed being here. I am going to read some poems from my book, as well as some new poems. So you're the test case, so let me know, or actually don't let me know. But I would like to start by reading some poems by someone other than myself. Of course, we all know that we just passed the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, so I thought I would read a couple of poems by the poet Edward Thomas, who is thought of as a war poet. He died in 1917 in World War I. These poems don't exactly pertain to war in the way that war poems often do, which is why they seemed somehow even more relevant to me in the wake of this anniversary. This poem is titled Melancholy. The rain and wind raved endlessly. On me the summer storm and fever and melancholy wrought magic. So that if I feared the solitude, far more I feared all company. Too sharp, too rude, had been the wisest or the dearest human voice. What I desired I knew not, but whate'er my choice, vain it must be, I knew. Yet not did my despair but sweeten the strange sweetness, while through the wild air all day long I heard a distant cuckoo calling, and soft as dulcimers, sounds of near water falling, and softer and remote as if in history, rumors of what had touched my friends, my foes, or me. And one more brief poem by Thomas, The Dark Forest. Dark is the forest and deep, and overhead hang stars like seeds of light. In vain, though not since they were sown was bred anything more bright. And ever more mighty multitudes ride about nor enter in, of the other multitudes that dwell inside. Never yet was one seen. The forest foxglove is purple, the marguerite outside is golden white, nor can those that pluck either blossom greet the others, day or night. So let me turn now to my own work. I don't write a lot of political poems, but I do write a few, and I have very conflicted feelings about political poetry, which makes it even harder to write political poems. This poem is called Brightness Falls. It was written not long after we entered Afghanistan. The title is taken from the poem A Litany in Time of Plague by Thomas Nash, and the poem also contains a line from the medieval mystic text, A Cloud of Unknowing. Brightness falls. Then the world ignited. Bad news everywhere, everywhere plague. We locked the doors and hid our faces. We breathed attar of roses from vials suspended on thread. As if beauty could keep us safe. As if beauty could keep us sane. Nothing could. Too early for jacaranda, but too late for rain. The moon drove herself up through the boughs of the pine like a grinning skull. The phone rang, but no one answered. Illuminated windows, brilliant night, moonlight bright enough to read by if you could hold a thought long enough to read. This was grief. Someone said once, just think of the word God or love, and you'll be fine. But even a single word was too much when the dust that hit us blew away. Only sleep, a childhood sleep filled with dreams of dangerous objects and the men who carry them. So obviously my poem is filled with poems that are about, my book is filled with poems that are about sleep, as the title might indicate. The first poem in the book comes from a dream. One night lions came into my yard. Two females, outlined in black marker, two cubs. I was lying in my white gown, sweat under my breasts, hand between my legs. One male with his lazy mouth. The lions circled the lawn, their huge heads wheat-colored, even in moonlight. The grasses of my education, staves, bent so easily under their feet. This far and no farther. From the plain I saw how the forest was burning, disorganized orange hem. Low tide on the mountains, lady next to me. I hate to fly, don't you? Later we flew over clouds, which look like snow if you don't squint. I drank my red drink with limes and no ice. I got drunk. The plane flew east. The sun backed away like an animal. Chalky faces of the other passengers. Numb no self of being with strangers. In the past, the hills keep burning. So I was asked today some questions about where my poems come from, what they're about, and obviously a lot of my poems are about my life. The next poem or maybe all the poems are about my life. This poem is titled Q&A. My father is an attorney, he's a trial attorney, and so I grew up being told never put anything in writing. And you see the result. Q&A. What is the nature of the disease? Crabgrass and carpenter ants, a funnel. What is the funnel? Grape cluster, echo, voice box. Who hears the echo? Foxes in the yard, chickens in the coop. What do foxes want? Banditry and hocus pocus. What's hocus pocus? Heaven for amateurs. Where is heaven? In my mouth. Mouth, a paper spill. What spills? Tree blight. What is blighted? Politics and the bristly lung case? What makes you bristle? Hole in corner reasoning, carnal subtraction. What was subtracted? Mayflies, mysteries, mathematics. What is inside mathematics? Fish eyes and soda balm, some honest engines. What is honesty? The nature of the disease. So it is my disease that I still have not found a cure for. This poem is titled The Clown and the Frog See Everything, and I stole the title. I am totally unrepentant about the theft. I was a grad student at USC at the time, and across the street from USC there is a kind of little mini mall called the University Center or something, and in the food court they sometimes put up drawings that children have done in a local elementary school. So this was the title of a child's dream drawing. The Clown and the Frog See Everything. Striped hat. Was that an object from your life? Your life which felt direct from objects? The juggler, the fire eater, the sword swallower, the trapeze artist befriending the air. You've seen them moving like insects in the circle of light. Performers. Hard work in the mouth of your granular existence, your circus tent, your new hat. Redeemer apple. Satellite up, satellite down, catastrophe circle. The air revolves cool and dry in the dark of the will. Skin catalyst. Eye rotates inside the eye of the flower, inside the eye of the star, which explodes like a star. After stars cross, a bright bouquet, they quit breathing. Stop. Who sang star? Who sang satellite? A purple plum ringed with apples. I was alone. Cold air foxed inside my chest. Where were you, Redeemer? I waited for you. Filled my own balloon. So it was Yeats, I believe, who said that poetry is about love or death. My poems are pretty much about depression and bad boyfriends, so it's the 21st century take on it. This poem is titled Longing. It's beautiful. Colored lanterns strung on a line, settled perfectly inside me, the not space, where you used to be, talking to me, extending your hand. Sailboats asleep in their slips. A mechanical sun rises as if pulled by string. The title of this poem is "The One Who Doesn't Love You Doesn't Matter," which, as we all know, is not true. The one who doesn't love you doesn't matter. Struggling to get out from under the hood of the world, I drove through the night cathedral, listening to the murmur of the fog. Not you, not you, not you. The cars ahead burned into smoke. Lights were embers. I crouched inside the white companion when something tugged me up out of my body and held me over, scattershot, the road. Broken open by pills. I think about you so much. That night we made love, awake in the frank darkness of 4 a.m. You sang over and over, "It feels so good," as if you did not believe it. Telescope of missing you. Resorting to a night of intellect and high ceremony, tapping my ashes into an empty bottle of beer. Don't worry, I quit smoking. Really, I did. Recently. It's not fun. This poem is I guess I would have to call it a workshop poem because it was written in response to an exercise. And it sort of refers to a famous line from one of Keats' letters where he said that poems should come as easily as leaves to the tree. Again, would that it were so. Poems are remote and cunning as fire. Poems rise the dark out of the dark. Think, don't feel, my friend A likes to say. White bones hiss like leaves inside the tree. What conveys the ochre light like sand and oil? A's hair fans out in rags of fire, while roots collapse sideways inside the soil. Like this, like this, like this. A twist of rope, a half-stitched hem. We talk the way birds talk from different trees, blindly spite and blindly love. Explain or don't complain. A's words will peel or strip the bark from the tree. Can the words consume the light like fire? I hate A. Sometimes the light creeps crippled from the shaft. Sometimes it glows like leaves. Since I spoke with some of you today about what workshops can do and how you can become your own critic and also how you can deal with writer's block, I thought I would read you a poem that came out of, I think, one of my worst struggles with writer block thus far. I was maybe 2 or 3 years into my PhD and I could not shut my critical voice off. And so this is what happened when I finally was able to figure out what to do with her. This poem is titled "How Wide, How Red, How Canopy." Yesterday, G said, "Perfection is your subject. O smoke, O plumage, O holy, under the wide red canopy of your parents dissolving, under the opening mouth of your first sexual parting, the tomatoes knotted to their wooden stakes, the scent pungent on your hands, rub it off, it won't come off, won't." Practical living. Couldn't write, so you went back to the garden. The garden? Be serious. The bees are serious. No sound and couldn't write, so you went back to the garden, scene of your first. Remember the garden where you let him make love to you, or no, it was your idea, the grass itchy under your thighs and a whole sky absolution pressing you down. Did you imagine it, or did someone look out and see you? Apology in your mouth like feathers in the cat's mouth. Primitive mouth and the second mouth. Couldn't withdraw your critic, the heart of the matter. A man on horseback, no. A child in a carriage, no. A man on a bicycle, no. A woman washing clothes in a bucket, no. A dog on a line, no. A child hiding under the stairs, no. A woman with snake hair, folding her hands in her hands, yes. Probably, snake woman with eyes color of grease. The critic was clean and inflexible, like a new handbag with a golden clasp. You were so reachable and the critic was not. Girl self stretched out, long dark shelf. Ugly succulent in the garden, no one remembers its name, approximately 40 years old and belonged to Aunt Ola, who drank beer when she couldn't sleep, and since you do the same thing, everything is inherited, including the past, which your mother says blooms. O golden night, O heritage dust, O root skin and seedling, the earth underneath the earth, not your department. Girl voice saying, heaven devil, let me out. An inquiry into containment saying, do you really think that Marguerite Daisy wants to live like that in a pot? Root-bound, so obviously not. Imprint of the day, imprint of the receding hour, imprint of the garden father. The critic stood on the roof of the garden, radical judge of all that she surveyed. Her hair was fire. Look at that woman with cobwebs for eyes. How can she see that way? As a child, you used to walk around with a book on your head to improve your posture. Imposter. The woman was really a witch, of course. She stood in the garden exchanging air for air, and her terrapin skin, which did not come off. What foul conjuring is this, someone might say, but you didn't. You were trying to understand why. If you planted the tomatoes so far apart, they grew together anyway. I'm different, you told her. I'm different because I'm smart. That witch was archetypal. She had bells around her neck and wrists and pointed nails like thorns. In the background, someone was keening, not really music, but more like music than anything else. Not that different, her voice filled with sand. Not that different, not that smart. Scrap. You sent for her and she came, your pony hour redemption. How wide, how red, how canopy, how moth, how might, how tangent and curving spire, how tower, how path, how make, how wolf, how candy tongue and religion nowhere. Sexual book under the bed, you found it and you read it. Your parents' book. The witch was punctuated, and the witch was the critic, and the witch was you. Even when you were 7, you felt it. You were on the swings, and the sun was out after a long rain, and you said to yourself, now I see, it's a box with a golden latch. So that's one thing you can do if you get writer's block, turn your writer's block into a witch. Okay, so I think I'll just read one more poem from the book. I'll read the final poem in the book, and then I'll read some new poems. The Wake. I could not bring you with me, old self. Carry you in my arms like a stillborn colt, rickety body slick with membrane. I wanted to breathe. You wanted to succeed, or at least go forward, a tall horse jumping over a wall. Instead, the morning light that moves over the wall like the surface of the ocean. Small shadows fingering bricks like anemones. No one chased me. Still, I ran like Daphne, turning and turning into the heart of the tree. I could tell you the tentative title of my new book, but I'm a little afraid that it will jinx it. So all I'm going to say is that there is a lot of magic in my new book, new would-be book, my new manuscript. This poem is titled Low Magic, and if you are not familiar with the distinction between high magic and low magic is love spells. Spells that you perform in order to attain personal gain. In other words, not the good kind of magic, the selfish kind. Low magic. Slipping from the world of objects into the world of sounds. Write the beloved's name thrice on a small parchment, then thrice write your name across it so that the names intersect. Place the parchment in a jar of honey so that sweetness will enslave the names. So frustrated like sown seeds that just won't grow. All the people you'd been before, all the usual modes of seeing, the woman as pear or pear blossom, the man as the stem that holds the fruit. Write the beloved's name on a candle 7 times. Use a large candle, or else you will have to write very small. Each day, intone the beloved's name while staring at the blue aspect of the flame. After 7 days, love will be yours. In the car with him, I was two selves, myself and the one he held irreverently in his hands. I could actually see the twain as when two rivers intersect, where the lighter water meets the dark, but I could only feel the two rivers continually dividing. To separate from the old love, you must bathe with wild chestnuts. Difficult to find, walnuts may work in a pinch. After you have bathed with exactly 14 chestnuts and the water has dyed your skin brown, go naked out into the street and throw the chestnuts at the tree. If you cannot go out naked, throw the chestnuts away in a brown paper bag. Note, substitutions may weaken results. Ah, insistence, shrill as the mockingbird, calling, canceled, canceled, canceled out. But magic is supposed to be difficult. Reunion of the twinned selves, no spell for that. Like the dark side of the moon, it's never seen, only sensed, or rather believed in, that it exists, that it's possible, that conjoinment, cut fruit held together by twigs and string. The magician's assistant. The hands of men crab walk all over me. They persist until I part like water. Men and men, other men, because women's bodies are like water, evaporation is inevitable magic. Eventually all water burns into air. The boss, his face white and inflexible, burn-scarred, takes the money, hands me some at the end of each day. Green salvage, white corset, earnings secreted between my breasts. What a hue, this green embroidery, this green sortilege. In some dreams, the same terrible occurs, only it is normal, it is for love. And the green is the green of the field corn. Fodder feed, corn grown only for cows, goats, and pigs. In some dreams, I even keep my own name. The orchard. Last night I dreamed again the monkey dream. They howl through the temple, stealing fruit left for the gods. Then they run chattering through the village. How the people hate them so. The little birds in the tree woke me. They twitter like girls, or what people think girls are like. She wears a coat. She wears animal skins. She wears a garment woven of golden thread. She has sharp teeth like a serpent. She is fanged. She is horned as a dragon. She is beautiful. She is not. The perfect roundness of her arms, the classical roundness, marmoreal but no, never cold to the touch. Her small hands, bunched fingers like the buds of the clivia before they open in orange flame. Her flesh, oh, that flesh that I wanted to steal with my mouth and my teeth and hide among my clothes. In the partial palace I lean to live with her, the ruins, the exposed foundation, the barn without a door. Inside her I learn to live, inside the lesser orchard, inside the deer's eyes, the rain. So I'd like to read a few poems about Turkey. I lived in Istanbul for a year and I learned to speak a little bit of Turkish. Turkish is a very difficult language, so to say that I was fluent would be a complete lie. This poem is titled in Turkish. The title is Çok güzel, ne güzel ya, which means basically, how wonderful, how great, yeah, sort of. It's not really a translation. Okay. During the year in translation, I lived as two people. The one who understood nothing and the one who understood everything. I had a second secret head, which I stowed in my large leather bag. When people talked, I imagined what they would be if they were flowers. Impatience, begonia, sweet William, tuberose, forget-me-not. Because they meant nothing, words took on colors: cerise, cornflower, currant, black or red. But sometimes bright clarity burst forth like sunlight in a clearing in the woods, and I would lie on the ground, ecstatic, Bacchic, feeding myself flowers, grass, and leaves. And this poem also is titled in Turkish. The title is Huzun, which refers to a very specific kind of Turkish melancholy. We do not have the same brand here. In the spring on Acıbadem Street, the trees suddenly bloomed. White flowers, extraordinary scent, nothing to compare it to, sweeter than honeysuckle, sweeter than jasmine. Women were breaking it off by the armfuls to carry home and put in jars of water on tables and tablecloths. Men took sprays, slid them into their buttonholes. White, fragrant snow everywhere. It made the people smile, even perhaps the woman who lived at the corner who poisoned so many cats. 13 or 14, hard to say for sure, but one day they were gone, not long before the flowers came into flush. Someone had murdered the cats in that starry time, the lilt of the odor of beauty everywhere, dead flowers broken off from the branches and carried away like boys, like innocence. A flower, no matter how beautiful it is dead the instant you break the branch. Bent over, studded, sudden, the sullen faces of the women looking out their windows at me as I trudged home, always looking at the ground, because if I did not look at the ground when I was walking, I would fall. And their faces were nearly consumed by the scarves, around and around those scarves. How those scarves disturbed me, terrifying in their tightness. They could hold anything in. No one could ever know what was beneath that material, wrapped tight as swaddling, concealing promises. Some people wanted the truth, but no one would say so. They nodded and smiled, saying, "However you like," which really meant, "Go fuck yourself." In Turkey, I could not understand anything, not only because of the language, but because there were things, ancient things, even in English, that had not been bred into my bones. I was a newling, a foundling, a barely there. So when the old women cried out to me, the flower sellers at the quay, cradling their dead babies, carnations and roses and peonies, calling "Abla, Abla, ya," I did not realize what they meant until it was almost time for me to leave. I did not know they were speaking to me. Abla means sister. And after I was there long enough, I apparently acquired enough body language that they would think that I would know what they meant. So just a couple more poems and then I'll finish up. And these are still poems from the new manuscript. This is titled To New Idria. I once made the decision to drive off the 5 freeway at a place where it says Mercy Hot Springs. Anyone ever seen that sign? For some reason, I thought a little sign by the side of the freeway was a good reason to turn off and drive 13 miles into the middle of nowhere. New Idria is an abandoned silver mine that is close to these hot springs. I stayed all night, which was not a good decision. Didn't get much sleep. To New Idria. After the bats flew into the cabin, blind messengers with no message, I lay awake all night in that small hot room, afraid of bats, afraid of spiders, afraid of mercy. At dawn, light crept over everything, golden oil, salve of loneliness. I drove the rutted road beneath my uncertainty. The sky was very high and the road very bad as the sun seared the gold dry hills, the red rock moonscape. 27 miles to the ghost town, the abandoned silver mine that is New Idria. Out of the lunar nowhere, horses appeared, threadbare, exhausted in their withers. Riderless, the horses kept company with the sky, a little muddy water, a little bitter hay. The colt with its rolling eye could not look at me. Horseless, I left, unable to bear my own company. Stripes of knowing how much further I had to go. Nights I sleep with a love charm beneath my pillow. thistles, nettles, matting the empty plains of my mind. Days I feel the cotton candy of my medication stoning me out of this world, but it's only a mask. Underneath the mask is the truth of thousands of bees abuzz around me. Never, never, never. My longing for her is broken as strings, tongued as coins. The bees collect around the hive. The whole night tilts toward the bottle tree, the awful emptiness of a tree hung by glass. Nights I don't really sleep, just finger the owl mask of my sex, particulate as feathers, where the world tilts further into its heart-shaped impossibility. So I mentioned earlier in Allison's class that I think my first book was about depression, and I think my second book is about rage. So I'm going to conclude with a new poem that is about rage. And it is tentatively titled "The Worm Under the Dog's Tongue." That's a quotation from the John Ford play "'Tis Pity She's a Whore." Purloined body, my sweet thief, I have not used you well. Useless algorithm, what Jay said. Well, you had very high expectations, probably too high. Bitter aspirin dissolving under the tongue, chicory bitter, pursed lip. Truant mind reaching and reaching for the stale glass, narrow in the folds, root raw. The lights in the mind go on, but not like porch lights, not safe. Scratch and worry, is he right? Body as warrant, the crooks, the crone of it, the wise woman in thatched hut handing out cures, the village witch with a pipe between her teeth. She advises, if the patient is too ill to speak, another may speak for her. This learning forward into 9 elegant skeletons. This woman you were becoming, carrion. This woman you had become, wise. Paper mache and bits of string, cast-offs, patches, stitched black X's for the eyes, nothing's bone beckoning, nothing's toothsome but bitten down, nothing's pretty much the same. Skin like the paper of grocery bags, stuff stuffed. Torn, brown paper sack. My skin stuffed, useless, and almost grotesque, like the centerpiece of a Roman banquet, a doe stuffed in a ewe, stuffed in a sow, stuffed in a cow, and then roasted. Not meant for eating, but meant for wonder, even awe. Belief, quorum, beggary belief, it takes so much. 10 commandments from the darkness, this banishment from 10 wildernesses. Crone with a linen cloth to cover her craggy hands, her unbeautiful. She must be a witch. Throw her in the pond, see if she sinks. Oh, please cover me so you do not have to see my face. Her face, cover her face. Last category, this one, this hollowing out of the body, this bell, extra skin noise. In a dream, someone told you, think of your perfect world, and then said, you're not good enough to live there. And you, bone-fled, knew he was right. Every month, the baby dream, your body full with the advance of leaving nothing, nothing that pertained. Spinster, one who spins. Oh, there were men, and there were women. Often there was no one. In the end, only the self, chattering, turning idle circles in the merry-go-round. Skin made of scales, but scales that skipped. Incomplete scales like the broken tiles in the bathroom. Skin made out of unwhole cloth, moth-eaten. Hemp skin, rough to the touch, would scratch you raw. Spinster, one who spins. And there was that friend again, the friend's voice now raised, banshee. Your expectations were too high. Expectations turned out to be like blood. You couldn't live without them. Sex for its own sake, a bottle filled with flies. Old blue bottle, the kind they used to use for milk, the glass bleary as eyes, used and reused, then finally pitched away. Luck was like that, factory made, easily broken. I write these words on the inner surface of my cranium, roof of my mouth, underneath my skin, on the palms of my hands. You cannot see the words, but if you feel very lightly, very gently, very precisely, like reading Braille, you will feel the tiny words raised up. They are all over me, invisible brands, just beneath me, the surface of me, my contempt for myself, and I will never escape this valley, this volley of interminable lack of conclusion. Leave the rats in the granary. Leave the riffraff, the parched, the pitted, the stoned. Leave the extra timepiece on someone's wrist, ticking out the fallow extra, the watch that fell forward. Smile, really smile. Fallen, fallow, ticking, feather ticking, and not nearly that place. No, never nearly, not in that place, not quite yet. What say you, hag? Who will speak the word for us now? Who will peel away the flaking rust and see us for who we are, witches, but witches without malice, only a little lonely, a little shamed, bitch in the corner with her tail between her legs. Cut the worm from under the dog's tongue. Heaven admits no jest. Say what she is, really. A bitch in the corner, her teeth in her head, with her hand on the wheel and her eyes on the spin. Thank you.